think there is an acceptance that a peace in Ukraine perhaps looked different to what it might have done 18 months, 2 years ago. I think there is a readiness, and albeit with Ukraine and with the Ukrainians involved, but a readiness to accept some sort of settlement which puts an end to the war. I mean, the war will be going on for almost 3 years. And I think that even a democratic administration that comes in after the election, should Kamala Harris win, they'll be keen not to have this war dragging on indefinitely at the moment.
Alistair Dawber, with the US elections in just under 6 weeks, is it likely that this will be the last meeting that Zelenskyy and Biden have?
I think certainly with Zelenskyy, I beg your pardon, with Joe Biden in the White House. Yeah, I think so. And this meeting really is all about the election. The Ukrainians know that on November 6th, Donald Trump may well be re-elected, and that his view of the Ukraine war is very different to that of Joe Biden. He's not as supportive. He says that he could find a settlement within a few days of being elected, which I think, of course, everyone takes as shorthand for allowing the Russians to keep some of the territory they've got. Now, this victory plan, so-called, that Zelenskyy is going to present today, as you mentioned, the idea is to Trump-proof the future of the Ukraine war. Our colleagues here at the Wall Street Journal have been reporting this morning that officials who have seen details of the plan are a little bit disappointed with it. They say it amounts to nothing much more really than demands for extra money and another request for the use of long-range missiles, which would allow the Ukrainians to hit targets inside Russia.
Wow. And I mean, should we expect to see a decision on permission for those long-range weapons come up anytime sooner out of the meetings that are happening today?
I'd be very doubtful that it would come out of the meeting today. Joe Biden has indicated, and American officials have indicated, that they see that as upping the ante, if you like, against the Russians, and something that they don't want to do. I think there will be more money today for the Ukrainians, about $8 billion worth of new military assistance, but that will largely be to replace kit that they've already used and already got. I don't think we'll see the long-range missiles, or the Ukraine's been given permission to use the long-range missiles. That's something that Britain's been pushing for, but the Americans at the moment don't seem to be prepared to accept that.
And look, this idea of sort of Trump-proofing Ukraine's war effort, is any sort of Trump-proofing possible? Is there anything that the US can help Ukraine do pre-election, short of actually literally, virtually winning the war pre-election, that Donald Trump wouldn't be able to unwind anyway?
I think the extra money, certainly. I mean, that's I think will form quite a lot of Ukraine's request. Once these weapons are in the country, the Americans can't really take them back. But of course, there's a finite amount of time. This war isn't going to end anytime soon. The Russians are making small gains, and you speak to people here in Washington, and I think there is an acceptance that a peace in Ukraine perhaps looked different to what it might have done 18 months, 2 years ago. I think there is a readiness, and albeit with Ukraine and with the Ukrainians involved, but a readiness to accept some sort of settlement which puts an end to the war. I mean, the war will be going on for almost 3 years. And I think that even a democratic administration that comes in after the election, should Kamala Harris win, they'll be keen not to have this war dragging on indefinitely at the moment. It's very difficult to see how it ends.
Yeah. Look, meanwhile, US intelligence has apparently briefed Donald Trump on a suspected Iranian threat against his life. Trump responded last night at a North Carolina rally, announcing that he would retaliate if elected, and if the claims turned out to be true. Listen.
If I were the president, I would inform the threatening country, in this case Iran, that if you do anything to harm this person, we are going to blow your largest cities and the country itself to smithereens. We're going to blow it to smithereens. You can't do that. And there would be no more threats. There would be no more threats.
Alistair Dawber, the basics of this story, the claim that US intelligence has briefed Donald Trump on a suspected Iranian threat against his life, how solid is that?
Well, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence has confirmed that the Trump's top team and Trump himself received a briefing about threats to his life. Now, they're not giving any details. We do know that an Iranian plot was hatched early this year, and a man is now in custody for that. We don't know whether Donald Trump's campaign is referring to that plan, or to a plan that we're not aware of, a plan that's not in the public domain. But of course, Donald Trump will say, look, whether it's Iran or even domestic threats, we've seen twice in the last couple of months or so that there have been direct attacks on or direct threats to Donald Trump's life. The Iranian threat, as I say, we know little more than what the campaigns put out in the last sort of 24 hours or so.
What do Trump supporters particularly? What status does Iran have for them? Is Iran seen as like this a sort of particularly significant evil global enemy?
Yeah, look, I mean, Donald Trump's, when it comes to foreign policy, Donald Trump's basic position, I think, is to step back and not to engage and to adopt a more isolationist approach, if you like. And one thing that Donald Trump has spoken about for years is Iran's ambition to acquire a nuclear weapon. Now, he ripped up an agreement between Iran, the European Union, China, a few other countries, and the US when he came into office. And says that deal actually assisted in Iran getting a nuclear weapon. He said that will never happen on his watch. So Iran is one of those countries, one of those areas of foreign policy that Donald Trump does engage with, but very much up to now based around, as I say, Tehran's nuclear ambitions.
And look, finally, Alistair, these repeated threats against Trump's life, two of which have been more than threats, have been attempts. What impact are they having on his campaign for the presidency? Are they having an impact still?
I mean, look, after the attack in Pennsylvania, he spoke at the Republican convention, said he would never mention it again. Now, of course, every time he speaks publicly, he mentions it. And a week on Saturday, he's going back for a rally in Butler, where the attack happened, the first attack happened. There's no real evidence that the polls move at all with these attempts. I think that they play very well with the base. They show that Trump is a survivor, and despite all these threats against him, he marches on and to the White House. Or at least that's the way his supporters see it. But moderates, Democrats, whether it sort of affects their voting intention, I don't know. Certainly, it's part of the campaign because he talks about it all the time. Whether it will dictate how people cast their ballots in 6 weeks' time, we'll see. The polls don't suggest so.
Thank you very much indeed, Alistair Dawber. And Alistair is, of course, the Washington correspondent of The Times and The Sunday Times.